This call is now being recorded. Good morning, students. Today I am going to discuss about origin and development of law of tort. As you know that the term tort is French, which is equivalent to English word wrong, or you can say it is unlawful acts. And if we talk about Roman law, it is a term delict. Tort is a civil wrong and it is not codified. So, particularly if we want to know about origin and development, there are founding roots of law of tort in British common law. Prior to French William the conquest of 1066 Norman conquest of England, legal system was somewhat haphazard conduct on more or less case by case basis. So law of tort was dealt with case to case and the decision was based upon the fact and circumstances of the cases. Eminent judges were delegated to discuss the fact and circumstances and deciding the cases accordingly. Further, eminent judges were delegated to travel about a given religion in order to absorb the village laws, village customs, and it has been developed almost 2 centuries. Judges noted that for implementing these laws, these customs, it need fair-minded into their court findings. So this was the law which is now called as the legal precedents. But Henry II instituted a statute which talks about 12 men of jury in each country to be appointed to decide whether an alleged case or alleged crime had been committed, then the type and extent of defendant's sentence means whether the crime which is alleged is committed or not and what will be the punishment. It was the provision made by Henry II. So further, this was totally based upon the benefit of clergy because it has been given the power to clergies. Clergies means you can say bishop or people who perform religious ceremonies in Christian church. So person performing religious ceremonies were authorized to decide the cases, but there was certain problems in that time also in delivering justice. And further, during the early division between church and state, Becket's court were established, and first we dubbed courts of chancery, later the court of equity, which is currently civil courts. So Despite Henry II, Fury Becket retained his stand as to validity any claim involving even nominal clergyman being entitled to judgment in his ecclesiastical court. Further, intensive to plead before the court of chancery lay in that common law court could award only financial damages. It means that if a rose garden were being regularly trodden down by a neighbor horse, the gardener could be recompensated only in a financial term. The destruction of garden and his emotional sense of loss was overlooked. It fell outside of range of common law. In addition, Court of Chancery could order a preparator to do or refrain from doing whatever action caused the plaintiff's distress. Means the only financial loss were repaired by the decision of Court of Chancery. But law of equity was meant to create a forum where emotional claim as well as financial loss was considered when reaching a judgment. In addition, if a claim brought in the court of equity were heard in English rather than traditional Latin, so there was also certain lacuna. This meant that what words read out and voiced in a court of equity were equally understood to all those engaged in the verbal show to play. So the law of equity has been described as gloss on the common law. The gloss proved especially true when the court of equity handed down verdict contradicting that of a common law court. So here we can say there was a clash as to king and archbishop. Their conflict intensified, hence Becket found some refused in the court of France. England remained divided by this dispute. When the Becket returned to England, no compromise could be reached, and Henry II believed that to have urged his throne to eliminate him by means of often quoted plea demand on his grounds. So here we have seen there was change from law of chancery to law of equity. Initially, as with common law, decision made by the court of equity were dictated upon the view and conscience of an individual's chancellor. Though this ethical choice was abandoned in the favor of development of orderly system, equitable principle, doctrine and rules took on definite form. So the court of equity developed its own principle and embodied the maxim as who comes into equity must have clean hand. कोर्ट के सामने जो आए स्वच्छ हाथ से आए. Meaning if he seeks equitable, he must be able to show to the court satisfaction. He must have to behave ethically in the dealing with the defendant, and delay defeats equity. So there was very clear provision in the changed law of equity. Further, in other sense, you can see that earlier there was provision that where there was writ, there was a remedy. Ubi remedium, ubi jus. Where there was writ, there was a remedy. But this was changed by Common Law Judicature Act. Though this provision was can be seen into the practice of common law in 4 or 5 centuries. People were allowed only successfully claim if they found appropriate in certain available remedy, and if their claim was not found in the claimed remedy, then they were unable to get proper remedy or compensation. So this view was changed. Now the position is that where there is right, there is remedy. So after the enactment of Judicature Act, the position is very changed, and now common law also follows that where there is right, there is where there is right, there is remedy. This was all about the development of law of torts in common law. Thank you.